Great. Welcome back. Manishi, I think you're new to the class. So we're towards the
Yeah,
end of Upadesa Saram, actually. So we were on verse 19. So I'll chant and you can repeat after me, all of you. Ahamayam kuto. Ahamayam kuto. Bhavati chinmantah. Aipatattayam nija vicharanam. So this verse says, for the one who inquires thus, where from the I arises, the I notion drops. This is self-inquiry. Or another translation, for when one turns within and searches, where this I thought arises, the shamed I vanishes, and wisdom's quest begins. So, this is a continuation of the previous verse we were doing, which was telling us that inquiry into ahamkara is basically inquiry into Atma, just like in the Raju Sarpa example, in our snake rope example. If we want to inquire into this rope, or when we inquire into the snake, it is nothing other than inquiry into the rope itself. When we inquire into the snake, we shine light on the snake, we realize that the snake is mithya. And what we see is the rope. We see that the snake is a dependent reality. There is no independent entity there. And the underlying rope is seen. And this happens by shining light, which is an analogy for knowledge, which removes that ignorance and shows the snake for what it is, which is mithya. And this is basically ahamkara. This is the false ego, this wrong sense of I-ness, which is nothing but it seems sentient, it seems conscious, but it is basically a reflected consciousness. This mind is reflecting the consciousness, which is me, and this reflected consciousness is so advanced, so perfect that we cannot tell it from the real I. But it is basically like a reflection. So just like the moonlight reflected in the water seems to be the real moon, but it is basically nothing but a reflection of the original. So just like similarly, this consciousness which is reflected of us right now, this jivas, is nothing but reflected consciousness. And this reflected consciousness borrows its attributes from the reflecting medium. So when the moon is being reflected in the water, if the water is muddy, the moon will look distorted. And if the water is moving, the moon will appear to be moving, right? And if the water is still and clear, the moon will be reflected perfectly in that water. And so the moon this reflected moon seems to take on the attributes of the water it is being reflected of. And similarly, when this consciousness is being reflected off our minds, it takes on the attributes of the mind. So if there is a lot of rajas, the mind is constantly moving, that's what the consciousness will reflect. It will show a very agitated person, a very, high movement sort of personality. And it also reflects what the other attributes of the reflecting medium. which is if, so this reflecting medium shows brown skin, black hair, and we will assign all these attributes to the reflecting medium. So just like if right now I can say this glass is blue, right? So we generally give the example of crystal. We can say that it appears to be blue, but the blueness of this glass is nothing but that the attribute of something which was it's reflecting off. And if this reflecting medium was to be removed, we will see that it's actually just plain crystal. There is nothing, it itself doesn't have any attributes. And so is Atma, the original consciousness. It's attributesless. It's nirvikara. It's unchanging. But because of association with upadis, which is the body mind sense complex in our case, it takes on the attributes of the body mind sense complex. And it also takes on the limitations of these body mind sense complex. Like this body can only be in one place at a time, right? And so we say, I'm here right now in this city, and so and so. The body mind is in a particular state. So right now, this body is in the waking state. And so I say, I am awake. Or the mind experiences these different emotions like happiness, sadness, anger. And we take on these reflections and we say, I am angry, I'm sad. So, hence, this false identity of the I keeps growing and growing. And so, any consciousness which we see is actually borrowed from that one original unchanging consciousness. And all the attributes, all the are temporary. And because of the temporary existence which the RM, the reflecting medium, gives. So that the emotional being that we are is only because of contact with that reflected medium. So what we must do in this inquiry is we should give the emotions back to the RM. We should give all these attributes back to this RM, the reflecting medium, and keep only what the consciousness part. So what will be left with is just the consciousness. And even this identity of the seeker, that we must give back at some point to this reflecting medium. So only when the identity of I am a seeker drops will we find what we are seeking. And then that is the one of the contradictions of Vedanta, right? It's only through seeking we can find it, but the seeker will never find it. So, and when the I thought resolves, what happens? So we saw already, and this verse is a bit of a repetition of that the basically any of these object thoughts that we have in the world, all the idam vrittis are can be resolved into the I thought, the aham vritti. And the aham vritti, the I thought, finally resolves into what is explained in the next verse. So the next verse says, Ahaminashabaj, ahammataya, spurati hritsvaham, param purnasat. So this says, before I go ahead, any questions? So this says, when the ahami, the I notion, the ahamkara, nashabaj, when the ego aham is destroyed, aham taya, as I, spurati shines, hitsvaham, pure consciousness, swayam by itself, param the limitless, purna full, sat existence. So I'm just giving the word-to-word translation, but the translation goes, when the ego, the I notion or the ahamkara is destroyed, then the limitless full existence, that is the self, the real I, shines by itself as I. The I is self-shining. So the verse is using the word destroyed. That one of the translation is destroyed. When the ego I is destroyed. What does this destroyed mean? We have to understand that well. So in the case of our clay pot and clay, when we say the pot is destroyed, if the pot is broken, what is still left is the clay, right? So the clay is not destroyed. When the wave merges into the ocean, there is still water. The water is not destroyed. It's only the shape, the name and form which is destroyed. So it is more like it's as if destroyed. Or in the case of the colored crystal, when the color is removed from behind the crystal, what is left is the transparent crystal. So all the attributes, the false attributes which were getting associated because of the upadhi, they are removed. This is the destruction that we are talking about. That only these false associations are removed. So all notions like I am happy, I'm sad, they resolve into the real I. So this destruction means we're able to see that's what is actually jada, inert, and what is conscious. This seeming association between the two is destroyed. So if you were to take another example, so one can, there is another Prakarana Grantha in Drigdirsha Viveka, which gives the example of a red hot iron ball, right? So what is a red hot iron ball? So iron itself is black and cold, but when it comes in contact with fire, it seems to take on, it takes on the properties of the fire, right? So it takes on the properties of fire, which is heat and this redness. But this fire itself, which is the principle, that principle is not observable without the iron ball. The principle of that fire can only be observed through contact with another medium. So in this case, when the fire comes in contact with the medium, we're able to feel the hotness of the fire, the heat of the fire. So similarly, when consciousness comes in contact with upadhi, this inert upadhi, so the body, mind, sense complex is actually completely inert. And it seems to take on the properties of the Upadhi. And this mistake happens because of aviveka, because of lack of discrimination. A lack of discrimination arising from ignorance. So the I, which is nothing but just pure existence, I am, takes on all the properties of the Upadhi. So everything else we say after I am a woman, I am Indian, I have black hair, I know how to speak English, whatever else you say, it's all because of associations with the Upadhi. And these associations make the I, which is actually limitless, all pervading, they make this I a limited being. But once this I is known, then no mistake can be made. The I remains the same always. So just like the clay was always clay before the pot came into existence, and after the destruction of the pot, the I always remains the same. So when the ahamkara resolves into this awareness, what is left is the self-effulgent I. That's what the verse is telling us, that this I is self-shining. You don't need something else then to reveal the I. All that has to be removed is the false ahamkara, and the I, which is always there, is self-shining. When the rope is exposed, when the snake is removed, the rope, which was always there, becomes self-evident. And what is this nature of the I? It is, the verse says, it's param, limitless, it's purnaha, it's fullness itself, and sat, it is the existence principle. This I is the existence principle of everything. It cannot be separated from anything in creation. So ahami nashibaji. When the ahamkara is destroyed, we need not worry about the resolution of the mind or ego. That's why in the Vedantic pursuit, we don't consider samadhi, these highest state of samadhi, as liberation. So it's not when the mind is resolved that it's not a particular state that is liberation. But what is, while it is very conducive for jnanam to take root and get assimilated, and there is the mind and can continue. And the reflection that we see will continue. So this perception of duality will not end, but the reality we associate with it will be destroyed. Right? We'll see it for what it is. So when this ahamkara resolves into the I still remains. And what will be present then is not the inquirer, but the content of the inquirer, which is simple awareness itself, the content of me, which is nothing other than simple, absolute consciousness. Spurati means shines forth. And that's another thing we have to understand well. What does shines forth mean? Is Atma experienced? What do you think? So Atma is not we can't say Atma is experienced because experience requires duality. And anything which is experienced, all experiences are also finite. So even in the Samadhi experience, where the triputi of the experiencer, the object of experience, and the process of experiencing, even when that triputi disappears in the state of Samadhi, even that state comes to an end. Same in deep sleep state. Which is the absence of any specific experience. But that also comes to an end. So in the waking and dreaming state, there is a particular experience that we are having. So we are all having an experience right now, which requires this mind, and there is an experiencer status. So this experiencer status, which is there in the Jagrat, the waking, and the Swapna, the dreaming state, but it goes away in Shushupti, the deep sleep state. It's this experiencer state is subject to coming and going. But there is only one thing which is present in all three states. In Tattvabodha, we give the definition, Trikale api trishtati iti sat, which means that which is present in all three states of experience, that only is Satyam. And what is that Satyam? That is me, the consciousness principle. So I am that Satyam, that Sat principle. And everything else is mithya. And hence, any experience, any limitations are also mithya. Sometimes a few acharyas will use the terms direct experience, right, to talk about this knowing or understanding that I am Brahman. But we have to simply take it as a limitation of words. What we're talking about, if they say the word experience, is basically it's simply knowing. It's aparoksha jnana. So understanding aham brahmasmi without any subject, object, differentiation, that is direct knowledge, sometimes said by a few as direct experience. So even when one has this direct knowledge, the perceptions continue. So even a jnani can experience pain if the body gets cut, or the prarabdha brings certain life events their way, they can still experience pain. Just like you experience pain, pleasure, various emotions when you're watching a movie, but when the movie ends, but even when you're experiencing that, you know that it is just a movie. So there is no real suffering. And so it is for the jnani. While they can still experience pain, there won't be any real suffering. So the knowledge will not take away the perception. So we all know, we all did physics in school, and we all know that it is the earth which revolves around the sun. But yet we can go and we can watch a beautiful sunrise and a beautiful sunset, appreciate the beauty, be moved by that beauty, while knowing completely that the sun is actually not moving. The sun is not rising or setting, but we can still appreciate it. So the perceptions, both the beautiful ones and the not so appealing ones, will continue. So the perception of duality is not opposed to the knowledge of non-duality. Any questions? So all these verses now are getting a bit abstract. And so that's how it is. So these are all more contemplation, mananam, nididhyasanam verses. Any thoughts which came while you were listening to that? Okay, let's continue then. Verse 21. Idam aham padabikhyamanvaham ahamilinake pyala sattaya. So this verse says, Idam, this OC, aham pada abhikhyam, what is called abhikhyam by the word pada, I, aham, anvaham, daily, api, even, ahami, when the ego, linake, is resolved. Alaya sattaya, in the form of destruction-free existence. So even when the ego, ahamkara, is resolved daily, in deep sleep, there remains the I in the form of existence, destruction-free existence. This awareness I is the implied meaning of the word I. So I'll read that again. So even when the ego, the ahamkara, is resolved daily, when does that happen? When is the ahamkara ego resolved daily? In the deep sleep state. When we go to sleep every night, there is no sense of I, we're completely as if dead to the world. There is no experience, correct? But even in this no experience state, there remains the I. And this I is in the form of pure existence, which is destruction free. And this awareness I is the implied meaning of the word I. So this verse is making the distinction between the two different ways we use the word I. So in Sanskrit, there is two, so whenever we use a pada, a word, there are two ways to derive a meaning. One is vachyartham, which is the literal or direct meaning. And the other is lakshartham, which is the implied meaning. So if someone was to say, I ate the banana, right? So that is when someone says that, we rightly assume that they mean that they peeled the banana and ate the flesh of the banana, that they must have discarded the peel. They did not say all that, but when we directly imply that meaning, if you go to a restaurant and say, I want dosa, the waiter will bring you a plate of dosa with sambar and chutney and all those things on the side. And you don't have to specify that because the waiter will take the implied meaning. And so it is, but most of the time when we say this I, right? So you say we refer to different parts, different associations of the I. When we say I am hungry, what is the I we are referring to, really? Is that the real core I, or we're referring to certain physiological function? We're saying this body is experiencing a feeling of hunger because of the samana vayu is asking for more food or whatever. And so there is this experience of hunger. So that's not the real I, right? So similarly, if I say I am in Hyderabad today, I mean, this body is there in Hyderabad. That's again not the real meaning of the I. All these are the implied meanings. Sorry, all these are like the wrong implied meanings. But the real meaning of this I is this constant, unchanging awareness. That's what Ramana Maharishi is asking us to take. Don't take the implied, so correct the implied meanings of the I. So most of the time we take this immediate meaning that we have, which has all these associations of the hamkara and ego. And that is the deconditioning we have to slowly do, which is why this process takes so many years. This study of Vedanta, well, all Vedantic texts are telling us the exact same thing. We need to go through it systematically for a long period of time to drop all the wrong associations of the I that we have, to arrive at the I, and to accept that I, which is the Param Purna Sat, the limitless, full existence principle, which is the real I, the real meaning of the I. So, aham linake api. So, even when the ahamkara is resolved, when in Sushupti, because of the indestructible nature of the uh, original consciousness, this original consciousness always remains shining. So it continues to exist even when the hamkara ceases to exist in that shushupti avastha, in the deep sleep state daily. So in the Jagrat and Swapna avastha, the waking and the dreaming state, I have a limited I experience. But the knowledge from Shastra tells me that I am limitless. So when there is a difference between perception and knowledge, if we trust the source of the knowledge, then the knowledge must always have the higher weight. So just like when I was giving the example of the sunrise and sunset earlier, while we have a perception of the sun rising and setting, we have no confusion anymore, at least hopefully most of us don't, about the fact that the earth revolves around the sun. The sun is not the one setting and rising. Because we have the knowledge and we trust that knowledge. Similarly, when we see, if you're driving on a highway on a hot day and you see a mirage, you see water on the highway, you won't stop fearing running into water because you know about mirages. You have the knowledge of mirages. And you know it's just because of the hot sun that there appears to be water on the road ahead. And because you again trust that knowledge. So similarly, when Shastra tells us that you are limitless, you either Shastra is a valid source of knowledge for you or it's not. Because the knowledge that Shastra is telling you about this real I, it is not available through any other pramana. It is not available through any other source of knowledge. Similarly, like you can see, if you can see right now, this top is, this is white and red. How do you know that? Because you're seeing it with your eyes and you trust your eyes, correct? If you had to prove some other way the color of the top, so if you had to prove it through taste or smell, would you be able to do it? You wouldn't, because the only source of knowledge which can tell you what this color is your eyes. And you've come to trust the eyes. Your eyes are a valid source of knowledge for you, the valid pramana, right? Which is basically broadly, it's the sense of perception which is valid. Similarly, what we are talking about, this I, is the subject itself. It's not, because one of the arguments itself is anything we perceive cannot be I, because I am the original witness. So anything I witness is the object, and I am the subject. So anything which is observable through any other pramana is, or even including things like logic. There is a lot of philosophies out there which philosophize the nature of the world, who's the creator, how this creation came to be, right? But they're all making guesses. It might be very logical, reasoning-based guesses, but it still doesn't have any other basis. So be it logic, be it this hypothesis, right? Nothing else can tell us this thing except Shastra. So either Shastra is a source of pramanam, source of knowledge for you, or it's not. So for a Vedantian, it's considered a valid source of knowledge. And there is also several other schools of thought in India who consider Vedas a valid source of knowledge. So all these we call Astika Darshanas. And all those which don't consider Vedas as a source of knowledge, we call Nastika Darshanas. And basically, this is all that can tell you. So if Shastra is a valid source of knowledge for you, then that knowledge must be held higher than any other sense perception. And the real meaning of this I will then become clear when the ahamkara, which is taken to be the self due to ignorance, is negated. The ahamkara will, even after knowledge, will continue to exert itself. It will continuously exert itself, which is why even when after the stage of Shravanam, when you've got the knowledge that Shastra is giving you, and after the stage of Mananam, when you've continuously contemplated on the knowledge, gone back to resolve any doubts about the knowledge, ask questions to your acharyas about it, and you have doubtless knowledge, you no longer have a confusion about what the Shastra is saying, you might still not be enjoying the benefits of that knowledge. You might still be having this feeling of being limited. You might still be experiencing suffering, right? And that's when Nididhyasanam comes in, when you go back and meditate on these verses again and again. So these viparita bhavana, these habitual tendencies, which is basically the hamkara exerting itself, they are weakened. And thus the hamkara will become slowly negated by this inquiry, by this continued process of inquiry, which is nididhyasanam. And till such time, the self-effulgent I can completely shine by itself. And we can be sure that this is the I which will not go away. And why won't it go away? Because it never came. It always was there. It is uncreated, independent entity. So there is no further reduction which is possible. So just like when the rope, which was mistaken for snake, is exposed for rope, that rope we know was always there. It didn't change. And this I is ever present, changeless. And the next verse describes for us this briefly again, the method of self-inquiry. Any questions? Okay. Not sure we have time for the next question. Next verse, sorry, because it's a long one. Okay, let's start. It is Vigrahindraya Pranaditam. Sorry, Vigrahindraya Pranaditamaha Nahamikasat Tajjadam Hisat. So it says this verse. Vigraha, which means the form or the physical body, Indriya, which are the sense organs, Prana, the physiological functions, the mind, Tamaha, ignorance, Naham, I am not. Ekasat, the one non-dual existence, that Jadam is inert, he therefore, Asat, unreal, false. So in short, the verse says, I am not the body, I'm not the sense organs or the physiological functions, nor the mind, nor the ignorance. They are inert and hence unreal. I am the one non-dual existence. So can I... Oh, Manishri, we are doing Upadesa Saram. We're almost in the last, second last class. So this is why it might not make too much sense right now. So we're on verse 22 of the text. So the body, senses, mind, breath, sleep, all insentient and unreal, tat jadam. So that is this word jadam, inert, is sometimes loosely translated as unreal. So it's saying, the verse is saying, this cannot be I. So it's referring to the various panchakoshas, which are all jada. And so better than unreal, we Vedantians know the term mithya. So all these are mithya. So, and when it's saying asat, asat also has two meanings in Sanskrit. So one is mithya rupa asat, and which means it is asat in the form of mithya, and tuchya rupa asat, which means it doesn't exist at all. Tuchya means absolutely non-existence. So what absolutely does not exist? Does anyone have an example? So one common example we give is the horns of a rabbit, right? So horns of a rabbit are absolutely non-existence, right? It doesn't exist at all. But mithya rupa asat means, it doesn't mean unreal. The better translation is, it is a dependent reality. It is dependent on something else. And that something else is what? me, it's consciousness. So Ramana Maharishi is telling us that all these things that we just spoke about, the panchakoshas, the body, sense organs, physiological functions, they're all jada, they're all inert, they're all dependent and not self-shining like Atma. All these appear sentient while they are jada, inert, they appear sentient, they appear to shine because of something else. And Shastra tells us that Atma is pure existence, pure consciousness principle. And when we say something is a principle, so like the heat principle, the heat principle in the fire, it cannot be experienced without a reflecting medium. So how do we understand this very subtle concept? When we cannot experience it directly, but we can only experience it through other mediums. So many times you will find that you're hearing all these words of Shastra, and these words remain words, and the mind is not able to extract the meaning of these words. So some of you are experienced Vedantians who've been through quite a few scriptures, so a bit more of this might be making sense. For those of you who are completely new to Vedanta, a lot of these might just be remaining words right now. So how do we understand these very subtle things? So the first thing to do is to refine the mind, to understand what Shastra is saying. That is to acquire sufficient purity of the mind, sufficient what we call chitta shuddhi. And for this, Shastra gives us a range of preparatory practices, which was in the first 14 verses of Upadesa Saram. They told us all the preparatory practices which can be done to make this mind more and more refined, to build the capability of the mind to understand the words of the Shastra. And then this teaching also has to go on for a sufficiently long period of time. There's very few who sometimes have this capability to understand it immediately. Ramana Maharishi was one. He evidently did not have a teacher for a very long period of time. And these special beings we attribute the understanding to past life effort, past life karma, and exposure to Shastra and past life. But for most of us, we need to be exposed to this knowledge under a lineage for a sufficiently long period of time. And then finally, Shastra says, it suggests we can start looking at the material world, because that's what's observable, that is what's confusing us, that is what's building all these associations of the I we think we are. And slowly try to understand the difference between what is Atma and what is Anatma. Build that discernment between Atma and Anatma. And after building that discernment, that's why in the first stage of Vedanta, we do this neti process. We negate and we negate. This is not I, this is not I. And this negation we have to understand is we are saying I'm distinct from this. I'm not different from this. So the wave is distinct from the ocean, right? It is not different from the ocean. It is also the ocean. But so the wave is ocean, but the ocean is not the wave, right? So that's what this first part of the negation is. We are saying I'm distinct from this. And so after doing this viveka, for a long period of time, then only try to understand the Atma. That's the process. And to do this, to then start, so to do this discernment, start with what is the grossest, what is the most observable. So Taittiriya Upanishad, which Raviji is actually doing right now in the Sunday morning classes, this takes us through this process of Panchakosha at a very detailed level. So what do you do in Panchakosha? You start with what is the most grossest observable thing. So if we look at our associations with the eye, what is the grossest right now? It's this physical body. So it's the Annamaya Kosha. So it's called Annamaya Kosha because it is made from Annam. It's made from food. It is made from the food we eat is what goes into making this physical body. And even at the time when the fetus was born, which was made from the egg and the sperm of the mother and father, where did those come from? They also came from the food eaten by the mother and father. And it is actually the most it's said it's basically the most concentrated best part of what was eaten, which becomes that ovum and egg and sperm, right? So that's why this physical body is said to be made of annam, and it is the grossest. It is the easiest to see. It is the most visible. So start your viveka, discernment with that. So when the body goes through an injury, say you start getting wrinkles, you start getting gray hair, the natural process that the body has to go through. So start practicing the discernment there. Start practicing discernment of why one should be upset because of these natural processes. And so we will continue in the next class with this verse. And so I'll stop here as the time is getting over. I think there was a question, so I'll just check that. Manishi, do you want to ask your question?
Ma'am, I have sent a question in chat box.
Yeah, so okay, you're asking if this world is Maya Mithya, then you and we are doing this class. At present is also part of Satyam. Yeah, which is true. Yes, this is all part of the Mithya. Yes, so you can say that everything, any transaction is part of duality. So when there is only that one non-dual consciousness, and I am that consciousness, and you are that consciousness, there is no two different eyes here. So what is this transaction that we're having right now, where the scripture is being revealed to you? So we talk about different levels of reality. Have you come across that?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so very broad, it's always a good revision to do the levels of reality. So in the ultimate level of reality, there is only there is only that absolute consciousness principle, right? And that is the non-dual state. So that is the state of Brahma Satyam. That's it. So Shankaracharya is said to have he said, I can give you the entire Vedanta in half a verse. This is Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. But the ultimate level of reality, there is only Brahma Satyam, nothing else. So then we have another level of reality, which is Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. So where we say, so normally we give clay pot, but I don't have a clay pot example right now. But so say this glass. So what am I seeing? I'm seeing I'm seeing a cup right now. But if I want to touch the cup, but not the glass, can I do that? I can't. I can only actually touch glass. I want to feel the weight of the cup. But what am I feeling? I'm only feeling actually the weight of the glass. So where is the cup? If the cup was if the cup was broken, what would remain is glass, right? And when the cup was formed, before that, what was there? There was glass. So what is this cup actually? So the cup is mithya. So you can still see the cup. The perception is real in this level of reality. The perception is real. So not only you, but uh, everyone else here who's looking at the screen can also see this cup. So it's even a shared perception. But if when we inquire into the cup, we find that all there is the glass, right? So that's the sense in which we're saying the cup is mithya and the glass is what's satyam. But it's a limited example. So we have to now take it one level further. So we're saying everything in this universe, everything in this creation is mithya. So that's why we don't use the word um, illusion or something like that. So when we say asat, this mithya rupa asat, we mean it's all a dependent reality. So the glass the cup is dependent on the glass. It is it's a name and form we have given to give it a functional utility in this world. So it has no independent existence on its own, this cup. It only has a dependent existence on the glass. So everything in this creation is basically that dependent reality. All right. So that's the sense of mithya. So that's why I said earlier in the class. So the seeker will only and find that reality, realize that reality when they drop the association as a seeker. But you cannot obviously do it before you're ready. Otherwise, again, it'll be mood making. You're just saying the words, but the knowledge has not really sunk in. So hence we do the systematic, long-term study, right? So that's the sense it is mithya. So then there is another lower level of reality, which is, your dream world and also your perceptions, which is your own filters of likes and dislikes. So you could be looking at this and thinking, oh, what a beautiful cup. And Niritiji could be looking at this and thinking, oh, I don't like this cup. It looks very plain, you know. So that is another level of reality which we have superimposed based on our own likes and dislikes. Does that make it a bit clearer? But yeah, it's kind of a much more elaborate concept to explain in this.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
It will take a bit a longer time to adjust or digest this fact, but maybe after some time,
Yeah, I mean,
I
that's why the Vedanta is a very long-term systematic study. So we have a Tattvabodha batch starting on the 2nd of August.
yeah,
That's a wonderful place to start.
I
Maybe
have registered in it.
beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
we will finish this and we'll probably wrap up this text in the next class. Yeah.
Vandanaji, I have a question. I
Yes.
know we have gone over time, but while you were talking about discernment and the ability to discern, I was just thinking, we as souls take on a body when we come on this earth. But what about those people who come into a body where the mind is not able to comprehend anything? I mean, they don't even have the ability to comprehend anything. I mean, leave aside discernment. I mean, for them, what is it? They just lead this life like that. What does the Shastra say to that?
So did we, yeah, we didn't specifically talk about that in this text, but what Shastra tells us about the law of karma, right?
Okay, so we
So,
call it karmic,
yeah,
past karmic thing that you've been.
yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
in
the
this
law
life.
of karma is also mithya in a way, in the sense that in this, it's applicable in the Vyavaharika world, in the transactional world. But from that sense, um, who is responsible for the birth that you have now? So it sounds, in one way, it sounds very cruel when you look at people who are suffering and say it is because of their own karma, they have the situations which comes to them. But in another way, it is also quite liberating because if the past you is responsible for the present you, then who's responsible for the future you? It's also me. So we're only able to, so everyone can better themselves. So a human birth, no matter how miserable it might seem, requires a immense amount of punyam to get. And there might be suffering, but which means bad karma is getting washed away. But it is also the only birth we can create new karma in. So Shastra tells us that any other birth, a plant birth, an animal birth, are only bhokta births. They're only to um, like get rid of some karma, you know. But it is only a human birth in which we can generate new karma. So we can generate additional punyam. So for those of us who are lucky enough to, not lucky, who are blessed enough to have the Ishwa Anugraha, which is basically just another name for Prarabdha Karma, uh, to have the discernment to come to this inquiry, come to an Vedanta class. So it's a very, very blessed birth. So you don't need uh, many more births to come to this realization. Realization can happen right now. If you're finding yourself in a Vedanta class today, it required an immense amount of punyam which brought you here. So that realization, the ultimate realization, can happen right now in this very birth. So never doubt that. And as for your question of what about those people who don't have the discernment, they still have free will, which is why a human birth is so special. They still have the free will to better themselves from the position they were born in, to generate more punyam, to refine the mind more, to even come to the spiritual path. We've seen some uh, really beautiful examples in this in the story of Lord Buddha. For example, one of his closest disciples was a mass murderer. He actually met Buddha because he came to kill him. I forget the name of the man, but he came to Buddha to kill him, and Buddha gave some teachings, and he got converted and became a disciple. and supposedly attained enlightenment later in that life itself. So we have this one unique thing which is not there in any other birth, which is free will, which means we can always improve the circumstances and move towards this realization, which is the only goal of a human birth.
No, my question was not, I understand that, but it was more to do with people who don't have a mental faculty, they're born with that problem. For them, the birth as a human, which is the best of all the things that we have. I mean, to be a human, we can, get into this enhancing our discernment and all that. But what about those who've taken a birth, but they don't have the mental ability to even help themselves? They need assistance everywhere. I mean, for them, this birth, those 40, 45 years or 30 years that they spend on this earth just goes like that.
Right. So, by the way, if anyone needs to leave, feel free to leave as we are well past the time, and I'll continue answering the question. Yes, so Shastra doesn't say something particularly about that, but if you're talking about those people who don't even have the free will
Yeah, yeah.
to make the choices, that is probably again a bhokta birth. So it's we can based on what Shastra says about animal births or other births, for some reason to work out that particular set of karma, they needed the circumstances of a human birth. It can say, but yeah, maybe there are those births. I haven't come across any reference in Shastra which particularly talks about a lack of free will. But we can take it as a bhokta birth. But then there'll always be another birth.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, and Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely week, and I'll see you for the final class next week.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
Thank you.